This week we're going to look at grids and wireframes. Now, hands up if you've used a grid before in your design. From my experience of teaching, usually around a quarter of the class puts their hands up at this time. Now the thing is, you've all used a grid most likely. You just might not have realized it was a grid you were using. If you've ever had columns in a piece of work, if you've ever divided it into rows, even if you've had margins, heading and footer, that is a form of a grid. Now, grids are vitally important in web design for many, many reasons. Firstly, to keep consistency across the different pages so that users know where to look for particular information, where the navigation is, where the header is. If the user's having to guess from page to page where to look for something, it's going to diminish the user experience and the usability of your website. Why else would we use it? Well, for ease of use for the developer and the designer. Now, if you are going to have a particular point size or pixel height for your body text or M height in web design, you need to make sure that is consistent across the pages for visual reasons. And when we go into typography in week 6, you'll learn that there is an optimal line length. And so to have that optimal line length working, your columns using the same size text have to be consistent across the pages. So a grid ensures that your columns are the same width across pages, that you're not suddenly making them wider or shorter on different pages, and that makes a better usability experience when it comes to typography as well. It also makes it easier for you as a designer because you're not having to reinvent the wheel every time you create a new page. You can use the same basic design across the different pages. So there's many reasons that we would want to use a grid. And in fact, there are many websites that use these grids for consistency across pages. Let's have a look at a couple of websites and see how they've designed with a grid. Now, this is one of the Swinburne web pages on research, and we can already see as we scroll down, we've got a container area here. Here we've got one column wide where there's research. We've got one column wide where they've got the subheading here. And now we've got 3 columns on different topics, another 3 columns. Here we have a single column stretching the page, and now they've switched to 2 columns. So we can see that there is a little bit of flexibility here. In some sections they're using a grid with 3 columns, 1 or 2 columns. Let's have a look at another one of the pages. Strengths and achievements, isn't that grand? Here we go, 1 column again, another single column and 3 columns. So they're maintaining a consistency of the design across the pages. Let's have a look at Study at Swinburne. Now we can see a bit of variation. Again, we've got the single column here, single column here, but now we've divided it up into 4 columns. So there's some flexibility in having a grid. You can see there's still a consistency. We know where to look for information, and we're having the same kind of themes recur when it comes to the grid, so people feel that feeling of comfort that they're definitely still on the same website. Let's have a look at a completely different one. Board Panda. Great place to waste some time. And you can see here they've got a single column for their navigation. They've got a single column for the sub-navigation. But down here, when they've got the articles, they've divided it into mainly 2 columns. Here we have the articles on the left, and we've got the ads and features on the right in a single column. And it uses the rule of thirds. This area with the articles is 2/3, this is 1/3. And typically it's believed this makes a nice balanced design. And as we see in these articles, they've divided it into 2 columns again, so that we've got 2 images, and then we've got a single column going across with the article itself. 2 images, 40 anti-coronavirus DIY solutions that are very questionable. But you can see that when you see them lined up, you've got 3 lovely columns, but that 2 of them are taken up with articles. And look at this, meet this tiny Oreo cloud who will eventually become a giant 85-pound fluff. I will have to check this out later. So there's some examples of why we use grids. In the next video, I'm going to show you how we do it in web design.